In this video, I want to have a look at equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions have the same value, but they're written differently. That should say are, not a, but are written differently. So that means they mean the same thing, it's just a different way of writing it. So for example, a half, we could write that as 3 out of 6 because 3 out of 6 is still a half. We could write it as 4 out of 8, for example. We could write it as 50 out of 100. It's really up to you. For example, 24 out of 48. All of those fractions mean the same thing. The top number is still half of the bottom number, but they're all just written slightly differently. So we can find equivalent fractions by multiplying or dividing. We're going to multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So whatever we do to the top, we have to do to the bottom as well. And as long as we do that, it's going to stay equivalent. So here we've got 3 fractions and we're asked to find the missing numbers to complete them so that they're equivalent. So our first one, we've got 3/4 and we want to write an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 20. So we've changed this 4 into a 20. We need to think about what we'd have to multiply by to get there. So if you think about your times tables, 4 times 5 gives us 20. So if we've multiplied the denominator by 5, we have to multiply the top by 5 as well. So 3 times 5 is 15. So that means that 3 over 4 is the same or is equivalent to 15 over 20. For our second one, we've got 2/5 to start with. Our equivalent fraction, we want to have a numerator of 12. So this time it's the 2 that's been changed into a 12. So we need to figure out what we're going to multiply that 2 by to get to 12. And again, going through your 2 times tables, you'd have to multiply it by 6, which means we have to do the same thing to the bottom as well. And 5 times 6 is going to be 30. So 2 over 5 is equivalent to 12 over 30. All right, our last one, we've started with 15 over 21, and we want to write an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 7. So this time's a little bit different because we've gone from a big number to a smaller number. So that means instead of multiplying, we must have divided. So we have to think about what we would have to divide 21 by to get to 7. And that's going to be 3, because we know that 3 times 7 gives us 21. So that means that 21 divided by 3 will give us 7. So if we've divided the denominator by 3, we have to divide the top by 3, the numerator by 3 as well. And 15 divided by 3 will give us 5. So 15 over 21 is equivalent to 5 over 7. So that's having a look at equivalent fractions.